All right, 111. I got to give you the short form of the rise of India at this particular point in time. Um, there's going to be a lot of competing kingdoms. There's going to be a lot of warring going on at this point. There's going to be a lot of competing tribes along the way. What's most important, we're going to see the rise. We're going to see the rise of the Mauryan dynasty. It is going to be led by Chandragupta Maurya. And the reason this is important, it actually takes place after another period in Indian history. And the period in Indian history is going to be about the invasion of Alexander of Macedonia, also Alexander the Great, also emperor of the Achaemenid Empire, the Persian Empire itself. What's important here is, and this is his short version because we're not on him right now, is that Alexander is going to lead a force. He's going to conquer Greece. He's going to conquer Macedon. He's going to conquer the Persian Empire. He's going to lead that force over eventually and invade India. And he's going to really, get maybe half of Hindustan at that particular point and stop. Because his soldiers are going to more or less rebel. They're going to say, listen, Alex, we signed up for a short stint. Here we are several years later, still parading, still conquering. We're an awful long way from home. We want to go home. He's going to run into some unfortunate circumstances. He is going to have the best of friends die. He's going to have some other issues. He is going to get sorrowful. He's going to get terribly drunk. And then he is going to decide to leave, and in the process of leaving, he's going to end up getting sick, and by the time he gets back to Babylon, he's going to die. In the process of dying, he doesn't leave any heirs. No heirs for his empire, so what will happen is his generals will go ahead and divide up his empire. Well, he invaded so far into India, so what will happen is his generals will take and divide some of that territory and rule and conquer. The problem is India doesn't like to be ruled, nor does it like to be conquered. You have some territories that are going to rise up against him. What will happen is you have a smaller kingdom in the Hindustan closer to the Ganges, and what will happen is Chandragupta Maurya is going to rise up, and he will rise up against the king because the king is, well, he's a dictator. He's not a good ruler. He's a corrupt ruler. He's going to rise up and defeat him, and he's going to create what becomes the Mauryan Empire. You have to see that Chandragupta Maurya is kind of Washington. There's a lot of Hindi kids that are going to be named after Chandragupta. It's still a very popular name at this particular point because he's going to rise up and lead this Mauryan dynasty, this Mauryan Empire, found it, and then eventually what will happen as he's expanded into the Hindustan is he's going to retire, step down. His son will take over, Arthashastra will take over. And it's interesting because after a life of conquering and death and destruction, Chandragupta is actually going to become a devout Jainist, and adopt the idea of ahimsa. Arthashastra will continue to conquer. He will continue to expand the empire, and eventually what will happen, his son will take over. And his son, the grandson of Chandragupta, is Ashoka. And Ashoka is one of those legendary figures when it comes to Indian history, because what he's going to do is he's going to take what his grandfather did, what his father did, and expand the empire. As a matter of fact, he will take over almost all the subcontinent except for a small section of the Deccan Plateau that he's not going to conquer. The problem is in finishing up this conquering, it's extremely bloody, it's extremely violent, and that's going to affect him in a way because, again, he's got the Hindu belief system as far as the ahimsa, as far as the dharma, and he's going to go, gosh, I'm done with this. And so what he's going to do is he is going to become what's called a Chakravartin ruler. And the Chakravartin is kind of interesting because what it does is he is going to, as the Chakravartin ruler, he's going to eschew the ideas of Buddhism. He's going to support Buddhism. He's going to support ahimsa, the peaceful coexistence. He's going to support the idea of the prayer. He's going to support, because there's a couple of major movements in Buddhism. One is Theravada and one is Mahayana. One is about individual salvation and achieving of nirvana, and the other one is the group precedent. And so he's going to push the group precedent in the idea that, listen, if we focus, if we concentrate, if we dedicate, if we fulfill our dharma, and he's really going to push that dharma as duty. If you do your duty as a people, then, as a group, that we can all succeed. Part of that succeeding, yes, is going to be achieving moksha, but part of that succeeding is succeeding in peace, succeeding together. He's going to push Buddhism without becoming a devout Buddhist. The idea of a Chakravartin ruler is to go ahead and support the religion, support the ideal, and through that you give a unifying process to the people. You give them a unified belief, and it allows him to conduct and control and coordinate the people as a unit. And so that works out well for him because he can pay the Buddhists to pray for them. He can go ahead and support the Buddhist ideals. And this is important because it becomes part of the ruling precedent in parts of Asia to, be a Chakravartin ruler, to use the essence of the religion to help guide and control the people in such a way that he's highly successful. He's going to adopt ahimsa personally, his nonviolence. He's going to go ahead and put several stela around the columns to the edges of the empire, so that when you get there, you read that this is the limits of the Mauryan Empire founded by Ashoka, and this is what we believe. And it's going to endure for, quite a while. You can go ahead and you read about the empire, you read about the stories, you read about the struggles. There's some additional stories. You got the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, and that deals with the religion. It deals with in some cases, the adventure, the war, the struggles of the Hindu people, the Indian people, as well as the empire itself. It's going to be this empire that eventually is going to morph and evolve and start to fall and get picked up by, another empire that eventually is going to give way to, the British Empire. It's kind of important because it goes through several stages, and so I want you to be aware of that when it comes to the Chakravartin ruler, because he starts in this context, something that's huge, because it's going to be taken over in Southeast Asia for the rest of it. All right, there's quite a bit more to cover in India, but I'm going to let you go ahead and do the reading, read about the pantheon of gods and the goddesses, read about trade, read about a few other things, and I'm just going to pick up on China next.